Now, let's go back to our reality. It might be Valentine, but we still have a lot of macroeconomic issues to handle. And we've seen the International Monetary Fund has been speaking a whole lot about what they think about how issues of the economy, Nigeria's economy, should be handled. The latest is that they're asking the federal government to eliminate all subsidy for petrol and for electricity. And on Business Morning, we did replay that track of Mr. Femi Falana, who is very angry about that. And there are other suggestions by the International Monetary Fund. This is what they do. They suggest and try to advise government. But of course, it's up to the government of every country to decide on the direction to take. We've seen a lot of applause following the removal of subsidy, of subsidy and some other reforms, unification of the FX by the current administration. But let's delve into all of this now with the Managing Director of Optimus by AfriInvest, Mr. Ayodeji Ebo, to look at some of this counsel. Mr. Ebo, good afternoon and thank you for your time.
Yeah, good afternoon, and it's great to be here.
Right. So IMF has given Nigeria a lot of attention these days, but not just Nigeria, but at least we'll stay here. And I think the one that's caught attention and generated a lot of conversation at this time is their request that the federal government totally remove subsidy on petrol and electricity. And of course, seeing how things are now, a lot of people are not happy about this because we know, of course, there's still subsidy on petrol, which is why with a change in global oil prices, we do not see a corresponding change in the price of oil right here. We see change in the FX rate, and it does not also reflect. So obviously, there's somebody paying for it somewhere, but I don't think Nigerians want to hear this at this time.
Okay, thank you very much. And I think to be candid, it's not advisable to totally remove this subsidy now. I've always advocated for a phased removal. So and you would see why government is also backtracking on total removal now is seeing the major shock that was sent into the system when the sudden removal for fuel subsidy was announced. Yeah, so I think that with the current reality of things, people are still trying to even stabilize from the impact of FX, which has not stabilized. FX used to be one of the, we used to have three major areas we pay subsidy: FX, petrol subsidy, and energy. So I think that this can be faced. A total removal or elimination would further put the masses into serious problem. Given the current situation, inflation is already high at 28.9% as of December. So what IMF, yes, can always recommend, but we also need to look at our economic reality. We have to look at the peculiarity of our economy. So with the current, like the admitted subsidy is still currently being paid at current level, but it has reduced significantly given where we're coming from. So if there's going to, it has to be planned. If there's going to be a phased removal, what are the things that needs to be put in place before that removal will be done? And there needs to be a clear channel. So if we come to the electricity sector, for instance, the prices have almost been fixed. There's what we call the minor review, the major review. All those agreements have not been followed. If they have been followed, there will be no need for a massive removal that is being clamored for now. So there's a need to be a roadmap. You're sitting down with the stakeholders within that space, especially the electricity sector. That sector cannot survive with this current gap in subsidy payments. And it will also impact on the government. So, but if we can all see that roadmap, that within the next 2 years, it will be phased out. And this is what would be done with the savings from the subsidies. And it will also encourage even the electricity, either the discos, that distribution companies, to also access funding or the generation companies to expand and to be able to provide more stable electricity. within the country.
Yeah, well, interesting there, talking about the phasing out of, the subsidy. But I guess one of the things that will shock Nigerians, I guess maybe they have gone past that level now, is perhaps painting the right picture. Because if you ask an average Nigerian, they will tell you the president said subsidy is gone. So why would you even talk about payment of subsidy anymore? Because in the future, if the people should try to task the federal government, at least to say, you haven't done this, you haven't done it, the federal government can say, oh, because we're servicing subsidy. And yes, the last announcement we heard about subsidy, at least for petrol, is that subsidy is gone. So perhaps where a place to start with would be to paint the right picture for Nigerians to know we cannot afford to totally remove subsidy, so it's still costing the country this. This is the plan. At this phase, we hope to do this after providing this. Maybe painting the full picture will make the pain bearable.
Okay, thank you. So, the idea, the announcement of the removal was made on the inauguration date. And maybe after that, within few weeks, it was totally removed. I think that was not fully planned. And that we saw the major shock that is sent into the system, especially within the economy. Transportation costs increased significantly and impacted on the cost of items. So I think now the reality, government have also come back to the table to see that a total removal will be unbearable for Nigerians now. And painting the picture is that you would see that the cost of items, the transportation cost, everything still moves by road here in Nigeria. Yes, for most of the some vehicles use diesel, which is not subsidized. But even the SMEs, most people use petrol, small gens to power their businesses. The cost is high. So what I think what we should focus on is that with the removal, can government also now prove to us the savings from that removal? What has it been channeled into? Then I was always advocating that there should be like a subsidy fund. Then we used to have the Petroleum Trust Fund where you see buses in schools. I remember those days. They build buildings for schools. So if we have subsidy funds and we can say we'll save 3 trillion, we'll save 4 trillion, and these are the projects, the roads that's being used for the infrastructure. So I think there will be no concern about that removal. Definitely is not sustainable, but there's a need to plan it before phasing it out, especially the petrol subsidy, because it impacts on everything from transportation costs to the cost of items, which would also increase cost of living.
So I think one of the things that has made the news since the removal of the subsidy is that we've seen allocation FAC. It's gone up, I think, it's gone up about 200% according to some economists, from June up until now. And we've also seen both the federal and the state governments attempt to buffer some of the impacts. We've heard conversation of palliatives, of CNG buses. But in spite of all this, it doesn't seem like it's really touching where, we would have expected it. What do you think can be done, even for this phasing out of the subsidies that you have suggested? What are some of the buffer and the plans that can be put in place, to embark on that journey?
Okay, thank you. I think, first of all, speaking to the FAC allocation, one of the major reasons for the major significant increase we are experiencing in FAC allocation is exchange rate. If you check last year, the benchmark, when you look at the official rate, was, I would say, maybe around maybe 500, 600 within the official market. And now it's almost at 1.5. So even if it's the same dollar revenue that is being shared, that is over 100% increase. So that's one of the major reasons for that. Yes, the savings from subsidy can also be responsible for it, but there's a need to ring-fence. You know, it's like, I'll use this example. Yeah, you have been working and you just received a raise, an increase in salary. When we talk about finance, and you advise people that increase should not be spent immediately. You can put that increase aside because you have been surviving without that increase that you've gotten. Or maybe a better example is a windfall that you receive. So you put that aside and you're able to save it or you invest it. So what I think should be done is that savings that we are getting from subsidies, let it be ring-fenced. Let a fund be set up, and it should be used for projects. Yes, all the CNG gas projects, yes, they are laudable, but that will not solve the medium to long-term problem. We need more good roads. We need the rail system to work, and these funds can be used as counterpart funding. Government doesn't have the resources to make all these things happen, but they can use the funds to partner with private sector to ensure that this thing happens within a short period, because time is of the essence. Things are getting tougher by the day, and the more we delay, the more it will require resources. You look at some of the projects, assuming we keep records, some of the projects that would have been completed if it was supposed to take $10 million, convert it to Naira now, those projects would cost more than ×2 to complete those projects. So it's better to just outsource it to private investors, let them complete this project, and let us begin to enjoy. It will unlock a lot of opportunities, and we'll begin to enjoy those benefits. So I think the medium to long term should be the focus.
All right, thank you so much for that suggestion. More of PPP, even though we know it's already in existence. Thank you so much, Mr. Ayodeji, the Managing Director of Optimus by AfriInvest.
Thanks for having me.
Let's take a break now. When we come back, federal government interventions with MSMEs, how effective are they? We'll be discussing that after the break. Please stay with us.